So hi everyone, we're here from the communications department, also known as dispatch to most people. We're the Worcester Regional Communications Department. That means that we're a regional center. We have Leicester, so we dispatch for the town of Leicester as well as Worcester. I'm the deputy director. I oversee all of the quality assurance manager, the 911 operations manager, the radio technician for the city, and then all the dispatchers and supervisors. I'll let them introduce themselves.
I'm Ernie Patient. I'm in charge of the training division up there and quality assurance. So I just make sure everybody does their job properly and train everybody to do the job right.
I'm Bob Odgren, a dispatcher along with I'm a CTO, which is a training officer, and I'm the instructor for the department. I won't say how many years.
How many years? Go ahead.
No.
A lot.
Go on.
So since
Some of
Bob,
you were not born. A lot of you. 1985.
I wasn't born when he said
38 years.
So because Bob is the instructor for the department, we're also going to let him be the instructor for all of you. He loves it. He's good at it. So take the
Too many
floor.
years.
Take the floor, Bob.
Oh, you guys aren't leaving, are you?
No, I'll stand
No,
right
we'll
here
stay
next to
here.
you. I'll
Moral
be emotional support.
Yeah.
Hold my hand. Never done this before. Okay. So, what is communication? It's the transmission of an idea from the mind of one to the mind of another with understanding. The with understanding part is the big part. So when you hear us on the scanners, everybody listen to scanners? Right? You do? When you hear us on the scanners, we are waiting for someone to say received when we give a message on there. That's the understanding part. We know they got the message. Same thing with the phones. We want to make sure people understand what we're saying and we understand what they're saying. So we want to make sure the communications goes well. Part of that is three major functions of our department. Police dispatching, we have east and west sides of the city is how it's split up. Those are split up into two sectors. We have divisional officers, which we have DB, training, vice squad, gang unit, and then we have detail officers out there. So there's chances of hundreds of officers being on the radio at the same time for us to keep track of. With fire, we have 21 companies in the city out of 10 stations. We have special operations, which do technical rescues, and they do the scuba alerts and all that kind of stuff. We have the chiefs and the staff out there, so there's a lot of people out there on that side of it too. Call taking, we answer the police non-emergency lines, which is called the police complaint lines. Fire non-emergency lines, when you call 799-3473, note 3473, spells out fire on your phone. And then we have the 911 lines. So police dispatching, what does that do? Dispatchers are ultimate multitaskers. A lot of people say that multitasking doesn't exist because you can only do one thing at a time. I invite you to come to the room sometime. We keep track of many officers as we went through. We constantly review and prioritize all of the incidents that come in. We do record checks for the officers. We deal with tows. We call the tows. We log the tows. We answer everybody that gets towed in a snowstorm, calls 911 and the non-emergency number to find out where their car is. We are the liaison for the officers, so we call people at their requests. We take phone calls from people that need to get in touch with officers. We comment and close every incident we have. So every incident gets sent to a dispatcher has to have a comment in it to close it out and an end result. There were a total of 128,583 police incidents created last year. Those are the only ones, those are the ones we sent out. We'll deal with the numbers of phone calls we take in a minute, once we get through the police dispatching and fire dispatching. But it's almost 130,000 incidents that we've created. We created over 1 year, the last calendar year. Fire dispatching. So fire dispatches, what's called fire alarm. I'm sure people with scanners have heard that before. Gonna have like 4 pairs of ears on you. You have to listen to a lot of stuff going on. We're required to monitor at least 6 radio frequencies, radio talk groups at any given time. We, in reality, probably do 10 or more because there's county radios, state radios, EMS radios we have to listen to. in addition to that. We monitor and answer at least 5 lines for fire department. What's called the digitizer, that's a municipal alarm system. The alarms ring into us, so we are basically an alarm company for the city of Worcester. We also page events out, so when there's a fire, we have to send a page out for every alarm that's struck for the fire, so first alarm, second alarm, third alarm. We also page out for fire investigations. On the police side, which I didn't note in there, we page out several different events, drug overdoses, stabbing, shootings, whatever comes our way. And we are the 911 backup to Worcester. So the Worcester call takers are over there. If they are all on a 911 call, the fire alarm dispatcher will get the phone call. There were 43,271 fire incidents created last year. That's a lot of stuff going on the fire side.
What's meant by paging events?
So when we have a fire that goes out, there's certain people that get notified by using what's called code red. They use it for the school system, they use it for DPW, for like if there's a holiday and they're gonna change the day of the trash removal, they use that. It's the same system we use. We page it out, it goes to certain people assigned to that level of notification.
Does anybody have Alert Worcester? So I suggest everybody in the city get the Alert Worcester. It's how we do all of our incident paging. So you guys probably use it mostly for DPW related things like trash, like you mentioned. How many of you today got my reverse 911 about the elderly male? So that is also through Alert Worcester and Code Red. I sent that out today. So it was only a certain area, so it depends on, so what happens is the police department, if they need a reverse 911 sent out, they reach out to me, well, through the dispatchers usually, they tell me, and I will send it out based on whatever radius they give me. So if they tell me they want the entire city notified, I'll notify the whole city. If they tell me a street needs to be evacuated, I'll notify that street. So today, I think I did a 3-mile radius, around a 3-mile radius to let those of you who live in that area know that there's an elderly male missing. You may be confused and give the description. So that's another thing that our system does. We're responsible for that. When you get, we don't do the police department website or anything like that, but when you get it on your phone, that comes from our department. We're the ones that send that out. So what he's talking about, paging incidents like fires or stabbings or shootings, we use that same exact system, but we have different groups set up. So if it's a fire, we have a bunch of fire chiefs or the highest fire officials and the officials for this department as well. And they're basically notifying everybody in the city that needs to know, hey, there's a big fire, be on, either be on guard, you might need to come in soon, or you do need to come in because this is when you get a 3 alarm, you know that this is your time to come in.
They're supposed to know, whatever level gets paged out, they're supposed to know if they're supposed to respond or not. Hopefully.
We should all know.
All right. So the call taking side of this, we answer the phone, 911, this line is recorded, where is your emergency? That starts the ball rolling. It used to be, what is your emergency? But I can't dispatch what is your emergency. I can dispatch where for anything. You can hang up the phone after you tell me where, I can send somebody. That's the most important piece of information we want when we get the phone call. So that's where we start. And then we go on from there. They're powerful words, awesome responsibility. We don't take it as a game, we take it, we need the information, and we're gonna keep everybody safe as well as we can. The estimated phone calls answered is 3 times the incidents created. That's an estimate, it's probably more, because especially with cell phones and everything, you get an accident, you're not only getting the call from the person that lives on the corner from the landline now, we're getting cell phones all over the place calling the accident in. So everybody's calling it in. So if you take the total police incidents and fire incidents, it comes to 171,854. You multiply that times 3, we have 515,562. So over 500,000 phone calls come into the center.
Just a quick question about the difference between a call and an incident. So you just gave the example, there might be multiple phone calls about the same incident.
Right.
What are the other reasons that an incident might not get created? In other words, if there's a call, unless it's a duplicate, why else might it not be considered an incident?
Because people will call about, how can I get my accident report? How can I do this? Any informational calls, we refer to another place. So we do not create, an incident gets created if we're gonna send somebody to the call.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. No problem. So there's something called the 300 call statistic. What that means is I, as a dispatcher, can take 300 calls. Of that 300 calls, one of them is going to be the big one. That doesn't mean I sit there, call 299 saying this is it. All right? It means that on average, so if I took 1,200 calls in a week, I would get 4 major calls. And then we sit there and we consider every call could be the big one. We don't know. We don't know if someone's gonna call and say, where's my car that got towed, or someone's gonna call and say my baby's not breathing. We have no idea what the call's gonna be before we pick it up.
So, I'm assuming you said there's more than one person listening to that call, so while he's trying to, maybe it's one of you, extract that information, is somebody else?
Oh, he was the only one on that call. That phone call was just
So
him.
he's having to dispatch at the.
Oh, no. We
Yeah.
have call takers and we have dispatchers, we swap off. So the call takers are taking the calls, the dispatchers are dispatching him. When he's talking, not to her, he's talking to the dispatcher, updating the dispatcher.
In this instance, I was dispatching that call.
So you were listening to his,
I was getting his updates, listening to as much as I could to what he was.
We're
Yep.
typing at the same time,
Okay.
all along the same way.
well, that's a lot.
And typically on a call like this, we would code it and send it right away, because as soon as we code it, it gets brought over. So the dispatcher, Ernie in this case, would see pedestrian accident, start the call and tell everyone, he'll give them an update as soon as they can, but at least we can get people started
Start
there
that out.
before we know everything.
It's key to code it, send it, and then comment the call, because fire's a first responder, but they're dispatching out of the station, so we get it to them, they dispatch it out of the station, they have time to wait for the update once they get in the truck. So to get them going, that's what we do.
And as a follow-up, because you guys seem to have to be a jack of all trades, when
Little bit.
there's an emergency, somebody not breathing, a drug overdose, I know that you have the ability to provide advice. I don't know if that's a card you're reading off of, do this, do that, or I just,
Yeah. So we actually don't, that's called EMD, when you provide the medical advice, and it does go on cards that are very specific, and you have to flip and answer the exact questions based on whatever answer you give them. We do not do our own EMD because we're so large. We have a contract with UMass. So UMass provides our EMD, which is important for everybody in the city to kind of know, because when you are talking to us and you tell us everything, we're starting fire or police if we have to, but if it needs an ambulance, we're gonna transfer you over to EMS so that EMS can do that pre-arrival instruction, CPR instructions if they have to. It doesn't delay help in any way, it doesn't delay an ambulance in any way, but they're the ones that do that care because they're trained and it's at the hospital and we contract through them.
Just curious,
Yep.
you mentioned earlier on average there were 3 calls for every incident. Were there multiple calls coming on this one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
How do you coordinate the information coming in from multiple calls?
One person creates the call, whoever took it first, hopefully,
Yep.
creates the call, and then the other call takers will update verbally, because we have a system where if one person's in the call, typing stuff to go to the dispatcher, another call taker can't get into it.
Right.
So they'll verbalize to the dispatcher what they're getting, and then go in and update the call afterwards with their information.
And in this case, how long was it between when the call started and when emergency services were able to?
Immediately.
It was like, on scene was less than 5 minutes.
Oh, on scene?
I think
Was
it was
li-
less than 3.
Yeah,
right?
it
Yeah.
was like less than 5 minutes, but it seems a lot longer, right?
Right.
Engine
It
5
does
is
feel
right out of
forever.
Webster Square. The police officers are in the area, and so it was, we got dispatched immediately, so.
we heard the sirens at one
Oh, yeah.
point in
Yeah,
the background.
you can hear
That
them.
was
And in some cases, we don't even wait, like, say a structure fire, for example. Our protocol for a structure fire, we just explained we'll code and send something when it's important. For a structure fire, we don't even code and send it first. Our first thing is to yell it across the room. because it's so important to get firefighters to a structure fire immediately. We just yell the address and structure and get them going, because we don't even want to take the time out to type the address
So
before
at that
getting
point, the
them going.
dispatcher on fire, the fire alarm operator, will just three-tone it and give the address, report as structure fire, and then when the call comes over, they'll create a run list and say who's going.
So when you get an address, you say the address might be an apartment building, but you're only getting the number. Does your system tell you that this is an apartment building, or?
Depends upon if it's a landline or a cell phone. Well, you mean if it, will it tell us if it's a
You
building?
ask the question, where's your emergency, and they say it's, I don't know, something.
1060 Main Street.
Yeah.
I'll say. That's an apartment building.
Okay, so your system lets the person receiving the call know that that's a structure with multiple units in it?
So when we get a fire call, and we code it a fire call, there's a structure file that attaches to that call, goes to the iPads in the truck, that will tell them everything about that building.
Okay.
Yep.
So you don't know, but the.
Oh, yeah,
You know
well,
too.
yeah.
We can know, we can click into it, but it doesn't pop up as quickly as it does for fire. But we have, I don't even know, what do we call it when our alerts come up, the red?
The
So like,
priorities.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, priorities,
Structure
so-
priorities come up, and it just flashes up on the screen. It'll tell you a history there, it'll tell you what the building is.
Give you information about who the emergency contact to the building is and all that?
That's all in the
Yep.
system, yes. Yep, yep. And then if you're not familiar, if the call taker is new and not familiar, we have a room full of experienced people that'll tell
So
you.
all the Worcester Housing Authority buildings,
Yep.
you know who to
Oh, yeah.
contact?
Yep.
yeah. We, even a lot of businesses, a lot of buildings in the city, we have emergency contact, and we call it responsible party information, and we have whole lists and everything
We
that we can
also
go
have
through.
some that are old, but I've called someone in the middle of the night and they said, no, he's been deceased for 5 years now. I went, oh, God.
It does happen if they don't update us, but
Yeah. You feel bad, but,
at least give
all
them,
right,
like,
we're gonna
5
go with the
minutes.
next one. So we have this whole thing that comes from the state police that has a list of questions that we have to ask someone that calls in a bomb threat,
Okay.
okay? But I'm gonna show you what the average bomb threat call is. It asks, and they tell you that we don't have time to ask that question.
Now on the side to clean, what's your emergency? Early on minutes of cleaning in and feeding like North Main Street. What happened? Hello? Hello? Hello?
That there was your average bomb threat. They're not gonna stay on the phone and answer, there's, some of the questions are ridiculous. Where did you place the bomb? When is it supposed to go off? How does it detonate? What's your name? Where do you live? What's your phone number? None of those questions are gonna be asked. And if we ask them, none of those questions are gonna be answered. This isn't the movie Speed. This is real life.
This
So-
is the average, bomb threat call.
Did anybody hear what they said?
Did anybody hear? Okay, so the guy gets on the phone, and as she's giving her greeting, he's saying, there's a bomb at TD Bank North on Main Street in Leo Minster, not Leominster, Leo Minster Credit Union, which means he's reading it out of, off something. And then what we have to do is create a call. We have to treat it as a serious bomb threat. So we create a call. So if we have TD Bank North, Bank on Main Street, we have one downtown at 370 Main, and we have one up by Webster Square Plaza. So there's 2 calls we have to create, and we have to consider those bomb threats. And then Leo Minster Credit Union was on West Boylston Street. There's one on Shrewsbury Street now, but at this time it was only on West Boylston Street. 3 calls had to be created by that one call. 3 incidents had to be generated. We had to investigate them. The police had to go to each one and search the building and everything like that. So it can cause a lot of manpower issues, a lot of issues for us when someone calls in a fake bomb threat, which
Most of them
knock on
are.
wood.
Yeah.
Most of them aren't real, but we have to treat every emergency like it's real. Any call that we get, there's a lot that we have the same callers over and over again, and we know this person. We know that they're gonna call every day, but we have to treat it. I've had so many people who I knew their name, I knew their birthday, I knew everything about this person because they called so much and talked to us so much that I became almost friends with these people. And they'd report things and you're like, okay, and you kind of are like, here we go. And they've called in legitimate things. I used to have someone who'd call in a parking violation every day. She didn't like where her neighbors parked every day. And eventually, she
We're
called
out
in a
here
real
now, man.
home invasion. A real home invasion. So every single day for years, she called in parking violations because she didn't like her neighbors. And one day she called in a real home invasion for her neighbors, the same neighbors she didn't like. So we have to treat them all serious because broken clock is right twice a day.
Okay, so we have to choose our words wisely when we're talking to people because people are gonna do exactly what we tell them on the phone in an emergency. So this is just a fun example of not choosing words wisely.
We're out here now, man. I hope you're happy.
Yeah, man.
Well, good. Now what?
Well, I just think we should have wheels on our safety vest.
Oh, come on, man. Those vests are for daggone people who really like to use them. Deer don't even see them. They're colorblind, stupid. Golly. Hey, Tiny, you get something? Tiny, what'd you get? Tiny. Tiny, oh my God.
911, what is your emergency, please?
Yes, please help us. I think my buddy, he's dead. What do I do?
Sir, calm down. I can help you. We'll walk through this together. First, I need you to make sure he's dead.
Well, I can do that. Hold on a second. He's dead. Now what?
So, choose your words wisely. People are gonna do exactly what we tell them on the phone.
And that's not even an exaggeration. People will do exactly what we say, so we have to be very, very careful. In a structure fire, we will never tell you to leave your home.
That was what we used to
Yep.
tell people, the first thing we told them when they said their house is on fire, get out of the house. Okay, but then there was a fire where we told them to get out of the house, and they chose to run through the fire to get out of the house. That has changed, and now we tell them if it's safe to do so. Any instruction you'll find that any instruction we give the public on the phones is, if it's safe to do so, do this.
I think we're cutting into the next person, so I
Yep,
guess we could
so
skip through
I
it.
think we're, it's all about teamwork. This is all we have, is all about teamwork.
It's not gonna play.
Oh,
Why is
it's
it
not
not
playing for
playing?
you.
Oh, no.
Shucks, next
He
slide.
loves his animation.
Next slide. Well, anyways, all the penguins go to one side, and the shark hits the iceberg. Sorry. So publicity and liability. We have 24-hour instant media now. It's not like before where we had to wait until the Telegram and then the Gazette. For those of us that are old enough to remember delivering those. We're under a microscope all the time, 24/7. We can be called to testify in court, and we have been. We get named in civil suits. We also can get charged criminally. There was a call in Detroit. Little Bobby Turner, 10 years old, I'll try to make this fast, called because his mother was dying on the floor, and this is what he got in Detroit.
Monday, 2/20/2006 at 5:59 p.m.
Emergency 911, where's the problem?
My mom has
You're on Spruce? You're on Spruce?
my mom
Where's Mr. Turner at?
right here.
Let me speak to him.
She not gonna talk.
Okay, well, I'm gonna send the police to your house and find out what's going on with you. 1950 Spruce, apartment 3.
So he was 6 years old. I think I said he was 10. 6 years old at the time, trying to call on his mother, passed out or unconscious on the floor. 3 hours and 3 minutes later, this call comes.
Monday, 2/20/2006 at 9:02 p.m.
Emergency 911, where is the problem?
My mom has passed out and
1950 Spruce at the Robert Turner residence? Where's the grown up at? Let me speak to her. Let me speak to her before I send the police over there. Huh? Okay, well, you know what? Yeah, she's gonna talk to the police, okay? She gonna talk to the police, cause I'm sending them over there.
But she's doing over there.
I don't care. You shouldn't be playing on the phone.
He's a little frustrated at this moment.
Now put her on the phone before I send the police out there to knock on the door and you're gonna be in trouble.
Then he just hangs up the phone. 2 dispatchers charged criminal neglect. One of them, the charges were dropped. And I'll tell you why. The first one threatened to send police and did not. 3 hours and 3 minutes later, the second one threatened to send police because she was gonna have them scold little Bobby Turner, and they got there and found her dead on the floor. So, one of them, the charges were dropped, the second one, because she did send police. So, we can get charged criminally, and that's just an example.
You guys live in a city where, just so you know, this wouldn't happen. We had a call like 2 years ago. That's niece.
Oh, yeah.
She called in for her parent, and we gave her a certificate thanking her for calling in for her dad who was on the floor. We don't do this, and Ernie
I had to
makes
go all the way to
Yeah.
Detroit to get this one, so. Yeah.
Ernie makes sure we don't do this.
It's changed over the years. It's a lot better than it has been. So, you want to take this part, or you want me to?
So, it's just a quick one. We're regulated by both the City of Worcester policy and procedures, because we're a City of Worcester entity, obviously, but we are also regulated by the state 911 department, and technically federally too, because we're CJIS certified, just like the police officers are, so we have to get fingerprinted and all that. So it's important because we have to make sure both of these work together. We have to make sure that the city gets what they want out of our department and that we're meeting our objectives, but while we're following all of the state 911, procedures and regulations and rules.
So each incident is logged, and with each incident, there's a number assigned to?
There's actually 4.
4 numbers.
So a call, when we create a call, gets a call number in our CAD system for us. And then when we send it to a dispatcher, it gets a CAD incident, which is for us. But it also, if we send it police, creates a police incident. If we send it to fire, it creates a fire incident. So it's a potential of 4 different call numbers or incident numbers created out of one call.
The reason I'm asking that is I've found that if someone doesn't have an incident number and they're trying to follow up on something, it's really hard to follow up.
Address. That's the most important thing that you can give if you're trying to follow up on something is the address. That's how you can get the I number most of the time.
So besides, say it's a medical emergency, who would a citizen call to get follow-up?
That would be EMS.
Is it for your medical emergency or someone else's?
Yeah, correct.
Say a family member.
We'll
We
never
don't
give out information.
Nobody will give any information over the phone. So the
Right.
reason for that is,
But even like the incident number, or let's say it's a burglary or something, let's change to burglary.
burglary, if you called in and said, usually we transfer you over to services, you usually call us. Most times we'll transfer you to services, and services can provide you the I number if you have the address.
Services usually ask for an incident number, and it gets really gnarly to get any further than that.
Well, if you're having a big issue, you can call us and just tell us, like, hey, I've called, I'm trying to get the incident number for.
You may be put on hold a couple of times, but
Yeah,
we'll get to it as
it's
soon as we
usually
can.
because of the
Yeah.
liability portion. Everybody wants to make sure they're only giving information to the right people.
How about
And
a
we don't,
welfare check?
welfare checks, we will not. So what we do in a welfare check situation, if you call in and say, my dad hasn't answered his phone, I'm concerned, we'll send help. But what we do is when the officers will instruct them to call you. They will instruct the person that we're checking on to call you. If there's something wrong when we get there, typically when you call back for an update, what we will do is either the officers usually reach out to next of kin or whatever they do on scene in those circumstances. But if you haven't heard anything and you call back in, typically what we'll try to do is say, we can't give you any information. Have you tried calling the area hospitals? Stuff like that to kind of give you an idea. You probably might want to call the hospitals. We're not allowed to give any information because even if you're the one that called in the welfare check, you could be calling in the welfare check on an ex-spouse that you're trying to stalk, and we just confirmed to you that they live there, we checked on them, and they're okay. And now they might not be, because now you might go there and hurt them, because we just confirmed your suspicions were right. They're living here, they're happy, they're healthy, they're, so we don't give any information, because we don't know who.
Not even that it was actually done, that the check was done, you won't even do that?
No, because that sort of confirms the address.
Yep, we're confirming information when we do that. So like I said, I know it's hard when you're calling in for a family member and you're genuinely concerned, but the reason we do these things is because we're protecting other people, because we don't know. You could, like I said, you could be someone who ran away from someone very dangerous in your life, and you're hiding here, and they got wind that you're here. And now I just confirmed to you that yes, that's where this person is. This person is here, and I did the welfare check. By not confirming anything at all and saying, I told this person to call you, that's all we can really do. Some cases, like I said, if there was something severely wrong, the officers at that point will work on notifying family and doing all that.
But if it ends up being a
stuff.
medical and they get transported, that's HIPAA.
Yep.
No, that I understand.
Yeah. So if you're calling in to check on you reported your car stolen or your car broken into, if I can get to it while we're talking, I'll give you the incident number and you can call Service Division with the incident number.
Mhm.
There's nobody's really gonna.
If it's something really pertaining, like if you called and said, hey, my house was burglarized, something like that, we could, like you said, we could provide the incident number, because that's not really gonna, but if you called in for, hey, my brother was murdered, can I have that incident number? No. Like, certain things we kind of also have to use our experience and training and say, no, that could be confirming something that we don't want to confirm for someone. We don't even want to confirm, because you could be the news, and we just confirmed there's a murder.
Yeah, that's
in our
happened
city.
before, the news calling, pretending they're not the news. Media, not the media. Paul's getting a little nervous.
Oh, yeah, we have
We'll
to-
go on to the next one, location. Most important piece of information we're gonna get from you. And that's why we start off with that. We want that right away. Because like I said, we can dispatch location, we can't dispatch what your issue is. And then questions by the call taker. A lot of people get frustrated, we're asking questions. We're asking questions so we can provide the officer with the information they need, or the firefighter, or anybody that's gonna respond. That's why we're asking, it's not delaying the call, especially in an emergency. If it's a report call, we're taking information so we can create the call and send it. But in an emergency, we're not doing this to keep you on the phone and just ask you questions. We're doing this so we can get, we're not delaying the response. I think that's gonna, I don't know, we're gonna do a silent call. You wanna do it?
This is just something, for an FYI, it's on our website too, our city department website, but we have a silent call procedure. If you ever need to call into 911 and you cannot speak for whatever reason, we will ask. If we don't hear anything on the line, we immediately start these questions. So if you need police, press 1. If you need fire, press 2. If you need an ambulance, press 3. We will say this, not prompted. You don't have to do anything. So I just like people to know that, because I know there's a lot of circumstances. We also have text to 911 now. We also can do that in Worcester. Yeah, we only do that if you cannot speak, if you have to do it. If it's something that you have a report call, please don't text 911. But in the cases where you are either can't breathe or you're being hurt, you can either do the silent call, we will initiate it on our own, or you can text us at 911. All right.
That's
Yeah,
it.
I think that's,
Normally I would say questions, but I think we already ran into the next person's time, so. Any quick questions anyone has? And you can always reach out to us if you have questions. Like I said, I'm Alyssa, I'm the Deputy Director. If you ever need anything, you can call into dispatch, they'll transfer you to my extension. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to give you guys any information you need. I'm happy to invite people up for a tour of the dispatch center if you ever wanted it. That's basically it.
Thank you.
sorry we ran a little late. Thank
He talks a lot.
you. Oh, with me.
All right, we're gonna get going. So for those of you that don't know me, I know a few of you, Mark, Paul back there. My name's Nate Riando. I'm a Worcester police officer. I've been a police officer for 28 years. During that time, I spent 17 years in the gang unit, 5 years in the vice squad, and now I'm assigned to training. I've been on the SWAT team for 26 years. So my job in training is to run the recruits and police officers through all the tactical things, kind of, if you will. You know, room clearing, firearms, active shooter, things like that. That's my job in training, as well as I also come up with the training for I assist with the training for the SWAT team. So we're going to talk about active shooter today. This course is a little different. I made this PowerPoint. It's a couple of slides. We're going to kind of fly through this because we are a little bit behind schedule. So if you have any questions and you want to answer during the class, absolutely. If you want to grab me after class, that's not a problem. But this is geared more towards civilian response, not police response. This is information you guys might want to know if, God forbid, you're ever in an active shooter event. So I'm going to kind of go through this. Like I said, please, if you have any questions, just raise your hand. I'll be happy to pick on you. So today for the outline, I'm just going to start with, you're going to inform you, define what an active shooter is, talk about some resolutions, how can you prepare for an active shooter event, which is situational awareness, and then how do we respond. We're going to talk about civilian response as well as police response, how we respond, just so you guys know what to expect from us. I do talk kind of fast, if you probably haven't figured it out by now, so if you need me to slow down, please let me know. All right, so what is the definition of an active shooter? It's a suspect whose activity is causing death or seriously bodily injury to potential victims. It's an armed person who has used or demonstrated the intent to use deadly force and continues to do so while having access to additional victims, and it's an individual actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a confined and populated area. This comes right from the FBI. This is their definition. Let me ask you this question. Is this considered an active threat? Has anyone seen this video? Just so you know, all the videos, you have a few videos, nothing's graphic in any of these videos, so if you do have to leave, by all means, if you feel like you need to leave, no problem, but there's nothing graphic in any of these videos. This happened in France, where an individual was walking around a playground with a knife. He ended up stabbing 4 children and 2 adults. I guess not going to show me the stabbings, but would this be considered an active threat? Yeah. What do you think? Absolutely, right? Okay. So don't always think active shooter, think firearms. This could be happening right in the playground. Like I said, this is right in France, right here. So that's why we're going to talk about it a little bit. We're going to talk about situation awareness, but that's why it's really good to be aware of your surroundings wherever you go, and kind of understand that. The FBI puts out a great report. This is online, so if you ever want to look this up, all this information comes right from the FBI, so you can look it up. But last year in 2022, there were 50 active shooter events total. Okay. Now the good thing is it was down 18% from 2021, because there were 61. The problem is, look at the next line. There were 313 casualties. Less active shooter events, more casualties. Okay, 100 killed, 213 wounded, highest in the last 5 years. Why do you guys think there potentially, why there's more casualties? Any ideas? What do you think? I'm just so you know, you guys have been doing a lot of talking today. You're not going to hear me talk about that. What's that?
High capacity rounds.
High capacity rounds? What else? What do you think? Let me think. Who, every time there's an active shooter event, who learns, what do the police do? We try to study that event so we can learn and how to respond to that event. Who else studies that event?
The shooters.
The next active shooter. Absolutely. So they're studying those events, and they're studying our response to events and seeing what they could do differently to maybe have a different response. So exactly. They're studying this information just like we're studying this information, okay? So understand that. Now, this is kind of interesting. Of the 50 incidents, 8 times a citizen like yourself stopped the incident. You think, okay, that's not too bad, right? Well, the police only did 9. Okay, so as you can see, the odds of us stopping it are almost as close as the odds of you stopping the event. And why do you think that is?
We're on scene.
They're on scene.
They're on scene.
Yeah. Absolutely. Let's be clear. Most of these events are over before we even get there. Okay, the average, when we're going to talk about time, most active shooter events are over in less than 5 minutes. Our national response time, our average is 8 minutes. We'll talk about that. But yeah, absolutely. So it's a lot of times going to be over before we even get there. 100%. Okay, and that's something to consider. So, talking about time. What did I mean when I said 8-minute response time? Please don't think that we get dispatched, which you just met our dispatchers, and it takes us 8 minutes to drive to the call. That's not how it works. Okay, in reality, I'm glad they had a class right before us, but what happens is, the minute happens at 0, right? Attack happens. It takes about a minute or 2 for someone to realize what's going on. Hey, did you hear that? Was that a gunshot? You know what? I'm not sure. And then you kind of go back and forth, and then you call the police. Has anyone ever had that happen before? Because you know your body naturally defaults to not what you think it is. Did you ever have that happen? I'll give you an example. I worked on a detail on Millbury Street at one of the housing projects on Millbury Street. So you're all familiar with Worcester, correct? You all live in Worcester. Okay, you know what Millbury Street is? There's a housing complex right on Lafayette. So I'm working there one night, I'm outside, and what do they have on every night at Polo Park during the summer on Fridays? Fireworks, right? So I'm sitting outside, I hear a loud bang, I'm like, oh, there's the fireworks in Polo Park. Then I realized it was Tuesday. It wasn't Friday. And that sure, it was gunshots right around the corner. But my natural instinct first was, oh, those are just fireworks. And literally I ran around the corner, there was a shooting right down the road on Millbury Street. But your natural instinct is always to kind of default to what you think is safe, what you think you know. When reality is sometimes is like I said, some of the worst case scenario. So again, that's why it takes a minute or two for them to even call us. Now they call us at minute 2 or 3. The dispatch takes the information, they then get it out to us. It takes us, maybe we might get our dispatch to about the 5-minute mark, and we'll arrive in a minute or two, but understand, now we're talking 6, 7, 8 minutes into the event. 65% of active shooter events last 5 minutes or less. 85, 10 minutes, and 90 last 15 minutes or less. There's a few outliers that went over 15 minutes, or 90, but a majority of them are over 15 minutes. Okay, so that's something to consider. So again, like I said, a lot of times these events are going to be over before the police get there. So, resolutions, okay? Again, based on those numbers from the FBI, 9 shooters committed suicide, 7 were shot and killed by law enforcement, 2 were shot and killed by citizens, and 29 were apprehended. That's usually the resolution of how these things end. That's a little breakdown right there. Where do they happen? Well, you all know where you work. Find where you work. And then you can see the number. Because where do we think most active shooter events happen? What do you think? Where do we think they most happen? Schools, right? Why schools?
Defenseless people.
Well, it does happen, but why do you think we think that's the most where a majority of them happen? Because you can see real quick, education is only 4.
See it on TV.
Because it's on TV, absolutely. Yep, those are the ones that sell a lot of news, that gets a lot of press, and we see that a lot. That's why the schools, we all think, oh, but active shooters always happen in schools. Look at commerce, open spaces, residents. Almost as many people get shot in their home with active shooter as in a building, in a school. Okay, events. So again, it's everywhere, as you can see. And again, if you guys can take pictures, but if you literally just Google FBI active shooter report, you can get all this information. These are all slides from that presentation. All right, multiple shooters, and we're going to talk about later why this is important, but I want to talk about this. In 2022, there were no incidents that involved multiple active shooters. A study conducted by the FBI concluded that all of the active shooter events that occurred in the United States, in the history of the United States, the history of active shooters that we've had, in all those active shooter events from all these years, less than 2% had more than one shooter. Okay, and of those 2%, they've never been more than 30 feet apart from each other. So why do you think that's important for you guys? Why do you think you want to know that? I want you to know that. So if you're in your place of business and you hear gunshots coming from one part of the building, I don't want you afraid to run away to the other side thinking there might be a shooter there. Is anything possible? Yes, anything is possible. But understand, we play the odds. There's a less than 2% chance there's going to be someone at the other end of that building, so take your chances and get out. Is that questions?
I just want to confirm this. I was in Las Vegas 6 years ago, at that shooting, and the amount of misinformation that was going on, and people talking about multiple shooters on the move, it was so confusing to figure out what the safe place was to go.
Oh, 100%. 100%. A couple of things. There's a million things we learned from that one, but absolutely, there was because everyone was going to the hotels and they're calling out that they were shot inside the hotel, and almost every casino called in their own separate active shooter. So it is chaos. Absolutely, it's absolutely chaotic. Okay, but going by the odds for us, and this is why it's important to know that understand that it's only happened 2% of the time. It was Columbine, San Bernardino. Okay, those are the ones too. The fact the only time they've been more than 30 feet apart was like in 1998. It was like Jonesboro, Arkansas, where one kid was on a hill. He ran in, pulled the fire alarm, and his kids ran out and shot the kids that were running out. That was the only time they were more than 30 feet apart. Okay, so again, something that you want to, as a response, like I said, I don't want you ever not leaving because you're worried about that second shooter. Unless there's something telling you hear gunshots coming from another direction, you see someone, I would take that chance to get out of there. All right, situational awareness. Knowing where you are and what's going on all around you. This is the most important thing you can do every day, all the time. Okay? This is what I do with my kids. I have 3 kids. When I go to a movie theater, I'll make a game out of it. I'll say to my daughter, who's now 14, I'm like, hey Sam, where's the exits? I can't find the exits. She'll be like, right there. I'm like, oh, okay, I know exactly where the exits are. But I want her to know where the exits are, okay? That's about being aware of your surrounding. That's what you have to do. We all see that person walking across the street on their cell phone, and they almost hit him every time. That person has no situational awareness. What I'm telling you guys is you want to always make sure you have situational awareness. Always be prepared. How are we prepared? There's a Cooper, it's called the Cooper Color Code of Awareness. It's just going to go through it real quick, but it's just something to think of. So white is that person walking across the street on their cell phone. They're just oblivious to everything, okay? They're just oblivious. You never want to be in the white, and you never want to be in the black, and I'll tell you about the black in a minute. So you never want to be in the ends. Yellow, so for us, I think you guys heard the story before, or maybe you and yourself, when you go to a restaurant, where do you like to sit? I can tell you where I like to sit, but where do you guys like to sit? Does anyone have a preference where they sit? Facing, I usually like to face the entrance, right? My back to a wall, kind of face the entrance. That's just yellow, prepared, alert, but I'm relaxed. I'm not having all my kids at dinner get ready to run out the building as fast as they can if anything happens. I just put us in a good position where we can do that. If God forbid we have to. That's yellow. Orange, if I now see something while I'm sitting with my family, a confrontation, I will now focus on that confrontation. Again, this is civilian, this is me and my family, not work. Civilian. I will now focus on that confrontation. I'm not going to address that confrontation per se, because again, I'm with my family, but I'm at least going to be conscious of that thing. That's orange. Now something alerted to me. Now if something happens, now it's time for red. Okay, and red is where we have to act. Okay, get my family to safety, things like that. Okay, but that's kind of where you always want to be. You always want to kind of be in that yellow, orange, red. Never be in the white and the black. The black is when you are so stressed out you cannot see anything. Has anyone ever seen that happen in real life? Yeah. Okay, and again, we see that a lot here, especially during we have the academy going on right now with the recruits. They're under a lot of stress, and sometimes they're seeing things that right on in front of their face. They're missing it. Okay, that's operating in the black. Okay, understand that you never want to be in the white and black. You kind of always want to be somewhere in the middle, ready to respond. And here's an example of this. Anyone familiar? You guys will also be familiar with this, but you know the Station House fire in Rhode Island? It happened. I think what was the year? I forget what year it was. But here's a layout, kind of. And what happened was, what they showed you with this diagram. Has anyone seen this photo before? No. What they showed you was the circles are the victims where they were located afterwards. But also, if you notice, everyone was so focused on this main entrance that look at how close people passed away to other entrances. Here, here. Because they were all trying to get to the one when they went in, the entrance they went in. Okay, they're also focused on, hey, that's where I came from, well, that's how I got in here, that's my only way out. And during panic and during stress, they were so focused on getting back to that spot that they didn't realize look at this one, right here, right next to an exit. Okay, so that's why you always want to have good situational awareness, and that's just one example. There are plenty of active shooter, civilian active shooter programs out there. Has anyone ever taken any one of these? Okay. Oh, good. They're all really good. I can recommend every single one of them. I got my Alice certificate. I know Paul has his Craze one. They're all good. They'll kind of say the same thing. You know, they just have their different ways of kind of selling their product, but they're all good. I'm not going to speak highly of one over the other, but they all do a really good job. If you have a chance and you want to take a class, by all means, I would sign up for one. Here's something that's interesting. For Science Today study. Okay, and they realized accuracy of a novice shooter. Okay, they tested police officers shoot their gun all the time, and they tested someone that's never shot their gun ever. Okay, and they realized at 3 to 15 feet, the person that never shot their weapon hit their target 75% of the time, which is a very high hit ratio. We all agree, right? Yeah. Okay, at 18 to 45, 27, it started to drop, and at 60 to 75, it dropped down to 5%. Okay, so the reason this slide is in here is to understand, again, if you hear a threat and it's a good distance away, distance is your friend, okay? They're less accurate the further you are from them, so understand that, because at the end of the day, let's be perfectly clear. If you can run, should you run? 100%. That is your number one response if you can run. Absolutely run. Okay, if you cannot run, hide, and if while you're hiding, if someone makes entry, then you fight. But your number one thing you should always try to do is run. So I never want someone to not run when the suspect's threats are way away from them, thinking they can't get away. If you can get away, try to get away, because that's your number one thing you should do. Doors, how do we barricade doors? If you're in a room and you have to barricade a door, there's different types of doors, right? One opens in, one opens out. How would you, in this classroom, barricade a door like this that goes out? What could you do? What do you think? We gotta barricade this door, how could we do it?
Pick up that table and put the legs in it somehow, so.
Well, if we put the table here, right?
Legs in the hand.
The legs in, possibly, yep, that might work. I mean, kind of tough, but maybe if we drop that down, it might work. What else can we do?
A broom?
A broom? Yeah, to prevent this from coming down, maybe.
Flagpole.
Flagpole? Yep. What else? What you ideally want to do is tie this door that goes out to something inside. So what do most men, what do you wear? Belts. You'd want to take your belt off and tie a loop it between this and something in the room that's an anchor point to prevent this door from getting pulled out. Okay? On an outward opening door, you want to kind of fasten that door, secure that door to something inside. You can definitely block it, but ideally we want to actually physically try to anchor that to something to prevent it from being pulled out. Okay? Doors that go in, like this one, this is where you want to stack everything behind it. It should look just like, hold on. It should look like that. Okay? That's how we, okay, so we cannot run and we have to lock down. You want to barricade a door. If it opens in, you want it to look just like that. Everything, piece of equipment in this room is going in front of that door that we can get there. Okay? So when you do not have time and opportunity to evacuate the room, you need to control the room. How do we control the room? If possible, lock the door and then block it with using chairs, tables, or anything else around you that allows you to barricade that door. We want to prevent their access to that room. Also, once you're inside the room, you want to get away from the doors and windows. You don't want to huddle in the corner together. Don't huddle in the corner together, and then be ready to move and distract an intruder if they make entry. The one thing, always remember this, and think of this when you go to your place of business or wherever you're at. You never want to be seen from that window. Okay? Meaning, if someone was in that window, they could see me. We all agree, right? Could they see Casey over there? No. Probably not. Okay? You always want to be out of view of that window or that door if you can. Okay? That's known as the hard corner. You can see this, meaning that if someone was in this door, they couldn't see anyone in this corner. From here, I can see here, I can see here, I can see here, I can't see here. This is where you'd want to be. I actually saw a thing on 60 Minutes, I think it was, where actually now a lot of school classrooms are painting that red line in their classrooms. And during an active shooter event, the kids know to go hide behind that red line. Okay? That is known as the hard corner, and there's not visible from the door. So if you're in a room and you're stuck in the room, after you barricade that door, you want to get to that hard corner. All right. When calling the police, you want to give us real-time information. No code words. Does anyone know what the code word is for an active shooter in a hospital? Anybody? No? It's a code silver. Okay, unless they've changed it, it's code silver. Now, if you heard cold silver in a hospital, what would you think? I'll tell you what I think. I thought my grandmother just got lost and someone was looking for my grandmother. Absolutely. And I'd want to go help them, right? Someone lost somebody. Code silver is the code word in the hospital for an active shooter, okay? Don't use code words. Let everyone know exactly what you have, okay? If it's an active threat, it's an active threat. Try to stay away from code words. Use plain language that everyone will easily understand. Information to provide law enforcement to 911 operators. Location of the active shooter. Number of shooters if more than one. Physical description of a shooter. Type of weapon. Very easy. Handgun, rifle. That's all you need to know. Okay, if it's this big, it's a handgun. If it's bigger, it's a rifle. Okay? And number of potential victims at the location. Why do you think that's important? Anyone? Victims? Why do we want how many victims? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Ambulances. Also understand, police response, there'll be officers going inside, and there'll be officers also reporting to a staging area where they'll meet fire and EMS. At staging, they will be setting up teams called Rescue Task Force that consists of law enforcement, paramedics, and firefighters to go in and get the victims once this incident is considered safe to do so, okay, depending on the shooter, okay, depending on his. So with that being said, the more victims we know, the more teams we can prepare, so when we do finally get clearance to go inside, we can have those teams ready to go and get those people out as fast as we can. So again, if you have a number of victims, that's a great thing for us. OODA loop. Has anyone ever heard this term? Anyone? Yeah. Anyone else? This is kind of interesting. This is how your brain processes everything you do. Okay, you observe, you orient, you decide, and you act. For example, I'm drinking this water, right? I observe my water here, orient my hand, decide I want to drink it, and drink it. That's how we do a thing. It just takes a couple seconds, okay, or less than a second. I'll give you the same thing. You're driving your car. The light turns green to yellow. What are you gonna do?
Slow down.
You observe it turn a different color. What do you do?
Slow down.
Don't say, Casey will give you a ticket right now if you say go through the red light.
Slow down.
Right? You slow down, right? So you orient your foot off the gas and towards the brake. The light turns red, you decide, and then you hit the brake, okay? If you, at any time, this is how we do everything we do. That's how our brain works. If you interrupt that loop, I have to go back to observe every single time. So, the reason behind this is if someone does come in, you want to constantly mess up their OODA loop. Okay, by messing up their OODA loop, they cannot do two things at the same time, and they're constantly going back to that observe phase. Okay, and we'll talk about that with this, right? So how do we observe? This is again, we're in our room. They're now made entry into the room we're hiding in. Okay, we can distract them, right? Overwhelming the decision-making process of the attacker, right? Constantly getting them back to that observe in OODA loop. Research shows the brain cannot perform two functions at the same time. Okay, provide time for you to use another technique or strategy. Right? Meaning, when we do this talk to, we teach teachers and other civilians this class, we'll do an example. We'll give everyone in the room a Nerf balls. And we'll give the shooter a Nerf gun. And the first time they'll come in, and the door will open, and they'll just try to shoot as many people as they can with a Nerf gun and see what happens. Everyone's gonna be hiding, they're gonna block the door, and we'll see what happens. Next time, the shooters know that, we give everyone a Nerf ball. Once that shooter comes in, what do you think everyone starts doing?
Throw it.
Throwing the Nerf balls at them. Guess how many shots they usually get off? None. Okay, so that's just an example of how you kind of mess up someone's OODA loop. All right. Now, if you do mess up their OODA loop and you aren't able to overwhelm them, right? You want to control them. How do you control them? You grab and control every appendage you can: arms, legs, everything. Okay, if there's four of you, each grab a separate appendage. Okay, try to get them to the ground. This is a personal decision and only can be accomplished by many people. Try to control the arms, legs, and head if you can. Okay, but you want to overwhelm that intruder. Okay. You're gonna need a lot of people do this, and hopefully you can all work together and make that happen. Is anyone familiar with the Virginia Tech active shooter?
Yeah.
So it happened in 2007. Okay, this is where it happened in Norris Hall. I just want to break this one down because a lot of times we hear run, hide, fight. Right? That's where again there's Alice, there's other ones, but run, hide, fights. At least we can say we all agree that if we can, we want to run. If we can't run, we have to hide, and if we hide, he makes entry, we have to fight, okay? So here's an example of how all three of those kind of work, okay? Because they will work, they all do work. So I'm gonna read this one, you can kind of follow me if you will. At 0940 hours, the shooter enters room 206, which is right here, okay? He kills the professor and 8 other students, wounding 3. Shooter then enters room 207, which is right over here. All right, and shoots an instructor and 7 other students. So goes into one classroom, shoots a few students, goes to another classroom. Students in room 205, which is literally right next door to 207. They hear gunshots, they cannot run because it's in the classroom right next to them, and they barricade the door, and they prevent him from getting access in. Shooter fires through the door of the classroom, but no one is injured. So look at this. They had to hide. How many were injured or killed? 0. Okay? Now, shooter then returns to room 207, but is unable to access the room because now the students who were, again, at first he was able to make access, second time he's not able to make access, he can't get back in the door, so that he doesn't get anyone. He doesn't shoot anyone at that point, okay? So they were able to barricade after he left. He then enters room 211 and walks up and down the aisle shooting students. He then tries to enter room 204, but the instructor, which is up top there, the instructor blocks the door with his body as the students escape out the window. So some actually were able to run. There's our run thing, okay? Instructor shot through the door and he passes away. And then shooter returns to room 206 and then shoots himself. He shoots more students and eventually shoots himself. The shooter fired 174 rounds in 11 minutes, killing 30 and wounding 17. All right? But there's a quick example that they all do work, right? Run works, hide, fight, they all work, okay? Here's a video. This is one of the survivors. It's only a couple minutes, but it's a very interesting account of what it's like to be in a room during an active shooter event. There we go. There we go.
That's what found it.
Yeah, found it.
That's too loud.
It's like too loud, but I'll fix it.
Second floor of Norris. This is the remodeled version that you guys are looking at. And most of the doors are closed because classes have started. So we have to count down and find 211. Right as we enter our room, my teacher, Madame Couture Novak, she's standing at the front and she, welcomes us with this like grim face of like, why are you late? Every morning she would move us around the classroom so we would get to work with new people. Because we were often late, we always missed this part. So this is pretty important. This day, I ended up sitting in exactly the same seat I always did, in the back right-hand corner on the right side of the class. What we don't know is that this time someone is downstairs and he's chaining all 3 doors shut. There's supposed to be desks there. Oh, you guys can see. We heard the first gunshots outside in the hallway, and my teacher, she opened the door. She immediately slammed it and she said, call 911. And the second that door closed, he walks in. He walks in shooting. There's absolutely no time. He goes to the other side of the classroom by the windows. He's holding 2 guns. He doesn't say anything. He just starts going down the rows of people. It's very quick. It's very loud. It's very scary. We had these very shitty desks. I get on the floor. I put my knees under the chair, my stomach on the seat, hands overhead, eyes are closed. As the shots keep going, and it's, like I said, very loud, I can tell it's getting closer and closer. And I'm telling myself, brace yourself, your turn is gonna come. Now, I didn't know what that meant. Like, I didn't think I was gonna get shot, but I knew that something really serious was going on. And I knew for whatever reason that I should just play dead. He shoots me. The first time's in the back. And you'd be surprised, getting shot doesn't hurt that much because shock overtakes you, but it starts to like burn and really kind of seep in, and that's when it gets really uncomfortable. It's not pleasant. He leaves the first time, he goes across the hall, and while he's gone, cell phones are ringing, people are coughing, and the smell of gunpowder has like completely filled the room. Gunpowder is like this really sticky, pungent, warm smell, and it just makes you very, very thirsty. He comes back. Now, this time, the shooting is more intermittent. It's slower because he's looking to see who's alive. I remember telling myself to stop breathing because I can feel my stomach hitting that chair, and I'm saying, stop, like, he can see that you're alive. The third and final time, he killed himself in front of our classroom. When the police broke in, the first thing the guy said was, we have a lot of blacks in here. I didn't know what that meant, but when police sweep a crime scene, they have 30 seconds. If you're red, you're critically injured. If you're yellow, you'll live. Black means you're dead. In 9 minutes, he killed 11 of my classmates and my teacher. 32 people lost their lives that day. This was like a huge, huge event. Now, they carried us outside of Norris Hall and they threw us on the grass and they tore open my jeans to see where I'm shot. Now, remember, I'm 19, so I'm thinking like, what color underwear am I wearing right now? They were like super bright. But she tells me I'm shot and I'm a red tag, so I go to the hospital, immediately into surgery. Thankfully, he missed all the vital organs. They still took some out. But the third bullet went in my right toe, which I probably wouldn't have if it weren't for those shoes. I love those shoes.
So that's just a little personal experience you can kind of hear from her. So just to understand the police response. How do we respond? All right. So our number one goal is to stop the killing. So understand that. So what does that mean? It pretty much means that we might have to walk by victims to go to the threat. Okay, because if we start working on every single victim we encounter, there's more time for the shooter to kill more people. So our officers are trained to go to the threat and stop the killing. Immediately once we stop the killing, we then shift to stop the dying. So the reason I tell you that is because you still need to be your best self-advocate, right? If you can help yourself, help yourself. If you can get yourself out, great. If you can provide medical aid for each other, still do that even when the police arrive, because understand our number one goal is to stop the killing. Once the killing is stopped, we then shift to stop the dying, where we provide basic medical attention after the threat has been stopped, and then we start focus on rapid casualty evacuation, like I talked about, bringing those teams in and getting people out as fast as possible. Okay, that is our goal. We tell people that we kind of move to the sound of gunfire and make it stop. That is our police officer's number one job. How to react when law enforcement arrives: always try to remain calm, follow the officer's instructions, put down any items in your hand, keep hands visible at all times, and avoid making quick movements towards officers. this is the last video I'm gonna show you. This is the shooting that happened in Nashville. This is the police officer response. So now you heard from someone who was in the room. Now I want to show you guys a video of how police respond, how quick they move down hallways, and how they clear. Again, there's nothing here that's nothing graphic. You're gonna see anything. But if you haven't seen this video, it's a little interesting. It's kind of interesting to see how these guys respond. These guys did a great, phenomenal job of responding to this one.
This is going to be first floor, main lobby, or what? I'm making entry on the front side. I got doing that for the
Okay.
Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
My windows, they're upstairs.
Hey. Give me 3. Let's get 3.
The reason we like 3 is because we can move down a hallway. We'll have 2 officers go in the room and search the room, and 1 stays in the hallway, so you can maintain all the cover in the hallway. You'll see that in a minute. 3 is the ideal number. Okay? If there's 3 on scene, great.
Let's go!
They're not going to wait minutes for 3 to get there. They're going to go right in, but if there's 3 on scene, they're going to get right in.
Metro Police! Open door! On me! I don't know where he is!
See these 2 officers go in.
Metro Police! Open door!
They're in the room. They're looking for a trail of violence. Anything that will cause them to that shooter is. Gunshots, victims, blood, anything.
Next, let's go. Door. With me. Hold the door. Next. Check this. Open it, I got it. Let's go.
Now, if we go to the location, we're looking everywhere. In a minute, they'll hear gunshots and they'll go viral. They know where the person is now. We'll see that in a minute. But until we know where that person is, we're going to search everywhere.
Take this with me. Take this. No, that's locked. Take this door. Take this door. Take it. It's upstairs. It sounds like it's upstairs.
Here's the gunshots.
Push the LPV up. Push the LPV up. Reloading.
And that's it. And they responded. So you can see kind of hectic, kind of crazy, a lot going on, alarms going off, people not knowing where the suspect is or the threat is. So they're moving as fast as they can. It's called rapid room clearing. We're clearing as fast as we can to find what's known as a trail of violence. Again, it could be bodies, gunshots, blood, anything that's going to tell us where that individual is. In this case, they heard the gunshots coming from the 2nd floor. They proceeded right up, and when you saw, once they heard the gunshots in the hallway, they weren't going in rooms anymore. They're going right to that right threat. And again, they're to stop the killer.
Do you know why the shots were fired at that point? Because it didn't look like there were any other people around.
The active shooter?
Yeah.
Because she was shooting out the window.
She was shooting out the window.
Yep, she was shooting at people out the window. Yep. All right, so that is the quick active shooter presentation. Any questions? All right, good. Yes, sir.
I'm sure you've read about the U of A report and all that stuff.
Yes.
Everybody there, I'm sure, wanted to do a good job, but where was the breakdown there, in your opinion?
I mean, I can't speak for other departments. There's a great, if you actually go to YouTube, there's a PBS breakdown of it. They put a special out. To me, Nate Rano's impression, all alone, is they confused a barricaded suspect with an active shooter. A barricaded suspect is someone who, and there's different tactics for that. A barricaded suspect is someone who's in a room by themselves and refuses to come out. If they do not have access to victims and they're there by themselves, then that would have been the tactic. You just wait them out, they're in there by themselves, you try to negotiate to have them come out. If they're in there with victims, or if their actions are causing you from saving victims, that is still an active shooter event. And they shifted to barricade when they should have went to active shooter, is my opinion. I'm not gonna badmouth anybody, but that was what I believe.
I can't see how that confusion would happen with everything I know.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. If you watch the PBS special, you kind of get a little bit more upset. Because they do a really good job breaking it down. I can't explain or defend or try to defend their actions. I can tell you what I think the breakdown was there. Yeah, I agree with that. Yes, sir.
All right, just wanted to say that the decision-making loop, is it the Robert Boyd one? The OODA loop.
Oh, OODA loop? OODA loop?
Yeah. Is it the one by Robert Boyd?
Yes. So it came from Robert Boyd, who was a jet fighter pilot, and he would that was his thing. He was familiar with where he would always do the exact, if he did something, he would always, I think he like never lost a gun battle, is that what it was? Like he was an instructor and a jet pilot, and he never lost a battle, because he always would mess up the person he was going against, their OODA loop. And he was doing, and you just do what they don't expect. That's what you're trying to do, right? They know if they do X, and everyone's gonna do this, they're gonna get right to that OODA loop. If you disrupt that and do what they're not planning on, well, now you reset that OODA loop. That's what I think what he would do with the jet pilots, if I'm not mistaken. Yes.